My ex-wife slept with my blood brother and tried to gaslight me into forgiving them. Hello, True Story. My name is Marcus, and I've become a listener of your channel, but this is my first time writing in. I've been sitting on my story for a while in my personal life, debating on whether I wanted to open myself up like this to strangers in general. Funny, I now want to open up to the internet, but something about hearing other men's stories on your channel pushed me to finally write mine down. Maybe it'll help me get some closure. Maybe it'll help someone else who's on the fence about ignoring red flags. Or maybe it's just my way of putting the pain out into the universe so it doesn't sit on my chest anymore. This story is long, and I'll try to give you the full picture. I'll be honest, it's not easy for me to write about because betrayal like this leaves scars that words can't fully capture. But here goes nothing. How we met. I met my ex-wife at my mother's church. To give you some context, I'm not a religious man. I was raised Catholic in the sense that my mom never missed Mass on Sundays and holy days, but I never internalized the faith. By the time I was an adult, I considered myself agnostic. I didn't know what the truth about God was, and honestly, I didn't think anybody really did. But I respected people who did have faith, including my mom, who clung to hers tightly. One Sunday, she invited me to Mass because there was some special guest speaker coming in. I didn't want to go, but I went because that's my mom, and I try to honor her. That's where I first saw the woman who'd become my wife. She was in the choir, dressed in white and gold, and I remember thinking she had the kind of presence that made you stop and notice. After the service, my mom introduced me to a few people, and somehow I ended up standing face to face with her. We'll call her Anna for the sake of this story. Anna had this big smile and this way of making eye contact that made you feel like she was seeing straight through you. She was warm, polite, and funny, the kind of person who could make you laugh in a room full of strangers. I was instantly drawn to her, even though I told myself I shouldn't be, because church girls usually wanted church guys. I figured she wouldn't want anything to do with me once she found out I wasn't religious. But the opposite happened. We talked for a while, exchanged numbers, and started texting later that week. I thought it would fizzle out once she learned more about me, but instead, she kept reaching out. We went on our first date at a little coffee shop downtown, and by the end of it, I knew I wanted to see her again. Early relationship struggles. Our relationship wasn't without problems, especially in the early days. Anna wanted me to study the Bible with her. She'd send me verses, ask me to pray with her, and talk about how important her faith was to her. I never dismissed it or mocked her for it. I told her up front, "Look, I'm not a believer. I don't know if I'll ever be one. But I respect you and your faith, and I'm not going to stand in your way." That caused some tension. There were times when she cried about it, saying she wished I shared her beliefs. There were times when she admitted her family told her she was unequally yoked and that God wouldn't send her a man who didn't believe. But I'll be real, those moments hurt. It's one thing to be judged by strangers, but it's another thing to feel like the woman you love is questioning if you're even worthy of her. But here's the thing. Anna also had this rebellious streak. She didn't like being told what to do, even by the church. And she told me more than once that she believed love was bigger than doctrine. So despite the warnings she got from her pastor and her family, she chose to stay with me. And I chose to fight for the relationship. We had ups and downs, sure, but we got through them. Eventually, she stopped going to that particular church. She said she was tired of the judgment, tired of being told who she should and shouldn't love. She found a new church that was more welcoming and open-minded, and in some ways, it made her happier. That was when we grew the closest. Free from her church's disapproval, she seemed lighter, freer. We traveled together, laughed a lot, and eventually I proposed. She said yes with tears in her eyes, and I thought I had found my person. Marriage and subtle changes. Our wedding was in a Catholic church, mainly for her family and mine. I didn't fight it. I figured it wasn't about the building or the priest. It was about her and me. We stood there, said our vows, promised to love and honor each other until death, and for a while I really believed we'd make it. But after a couple of years, I started noticing changes in her. She drank more often. At first, it was just wine with dinner. Then it was cocktails with friends after work. Then it turned into late nights out, where she'd come home tipsy, telling me she was just stressed about her job. I believed her, even though my gut was starting to whisper that something was off. She also got more secretive. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd brush it off. She'd get phone calls and walk into another room. When I asked, she said it was just friends venting about their problems. I wanted to trust her, and I told myself that marriage required trust. But deep down, I felt a distance growing. The church conversation. One night, she came home from church visibly upset. She sat me down and told me she'd had a conversation with some people there, and they told her, "The devil is in you. Marcus is the reason." I'll never forget the way she looked at me when she said that, almost like she was questioning if I was some sort of curse on her life. She admitted she went to confession, but refused to tell me what she confessed. That part stung. We were supposed to be one flesh, one unit. How could she bare her soul to a priest but not her own husband? That's when I started feeling truly uncomfortable. I brushed it off because I didn't want to seem controlling, but it ate at me. Looking back, I wish I had pressed harder, asked more questions, maybe even done some digging. But hindsight is always 20/20. The betrayal, the day everything fell apart, is burned into my memory like a scar. I came home earlier than expected one afternoon. I walked into the house and instantly knew something was wrong. The lights were dim. The living room was a mess, and I heard noises coming from the bedroom. At first, my brain didn't want to process it. I thought maybe the TV was on, but as I got closer, the sounds got clearer. I opened the bedroom door, and there it was, my wife and my blood brother in bed together. I don't even know how to explain the rage that filled me. It was like every nerve in my body was on fire. I lost it. I went after my brother with everything in me. He was always the nice one, the sweet one, but in that moment, he was just another man betraying me in the worst way possible. I beat him badly, bad enough that I had to pull myself back before it went too far. Anna was screaming, crying, begging me to stop, but I couldn't hear her. All I could see was red. The gaslighting. Afterward, when things calmed down, Anna tried to spin it. She actually had the nerve to tell me, "Everyone cheats. At least it was with someone you knew and not a stranger." She said her trying to hide it was proof that she loved me because she didn't want to hurt me. Can you imagine that? She tried to make me feel crazy for being hurt. She told me that real couples who say their vows in church work through it, that a priest would tell me to forgive her, and that I was wrong for even thinking about leaving. She even said I should forgive my brother because family is forever. That was the final insult. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was delusional enough to think I'd accept it. Where I'll leave off for now. I'll end the story here because I plan to send in a part 2. There's a lot more to say about what happened after, how the divorce played out, how my family reacted, and how I've tried to rebuild since then. But for now, I just wanted to put the story of the betrayal itself out there. Because as much as it hurts, there's also a strange relief in admitting it out loud, in writing it down for other men to read or hear. Maybe someone else will hear this and realize they don't have to put up with being gaslit, lied to, or disrespected, whether it's from a wife, a brother, or anyone else. Thank you for giving men a platform to share their stories. It means more than you know. Sincerely, Marcus. Part 2. Life after finding my ex-wife with my brother. Hello, True Story. This is Marcus again, following up on the story I sent you about catching my ex-wife in bed with my blood brother. I left off at the betrayal itself and the immediate aftermath. As I said before, writing this out is both painful and therapeutic, and I appreciate the fact that your channel gives men a chance to have their stories heard. So here's part 2. Everything that unfolded after I walked in on the two people who were supposed to love me most betraying me in the worst way possible. The immediate fallout. When I finally stopped swinging on my brother, I just stood there staring at both of them. My wife was sobbing, begging me to calm down, saying it's not what it looks like, which is the dumbest thing she could have said because it was exactly what it looked like. My brother was holding his face, bleeding from his nose and lip, trying to act like he was the victim. I told them both to get out of my house. My brother stammered something about not having clothes, and I told him I didn't care if he walked out naked. He needed to leave. My wife tried to argue with me, saying we needed to talk, that I needed to be reasonable. I just pointed to the door and told them both to get out before I lost it again. They left, and as soon as the door shut, I collapsed. I don't think I've ever cried harder in my life. I'm not the type of man who cries often, but that night I felt like my soul had been ripped in half. The gaslighting continued. The next morning, my phone started blowing up. First, it was my wife texting me paragraphs about how she loved me, how this was a mistake, how we can get through this if we just pray together. Then it was my brother calling me, trying to apologize, saying he was drunk, saying it just happened. I ignored both of them. But later that day, I got a knock on the door. It was my wife holding a Bible. She came inside uninvited and started reading scripture to me about forgiveness, about how even Jesus forgave those who wronged him. She kept saying things like, "The priest would tell you to work through this. This is what couples do when they've made vows before God." I'll never forget one line she said, "The fact that I hid it from you for so long shows how much I loved you, Marcus. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't have cared whether you found out." That made my blood boil. She wanted to spin her lies and deception into some kind of proof of devotion. That's when I realized she was never going to take accountability. She truly believed she could manipulate me into forgiving her. I told her to pack her things and leave. That was the official end of our marriage, even though legally it would take months to finalize. Family reactions. Now this is where the story gets even messier. Because when it's your wife and your brother, you can't just keep it private. It bleeds into your family dynamic, whether you want it to or not. When I told my mom, she broke down. My mom is a faithful Catholic woman who believes family is sacred. To hear that her son slept with his brother's wife nearly destroyed her. She kept asking me if she'd done something wrong raising us. She begged me not to cut my brother out of my life completely, but I told her that was non-negotiable. I couldn't look at him the same way. My dad, on the other hand, was furious. He told my brother he was dead to him. He said, "You don't do that to your blood, ever." He refused to speak to him for months. As for extended family, word got around fast. Some people were on my side, some were on his. I had an aunt who actually said, "Well, at least it was your brother and not some stranger. That means she trusted him." Can you believe that? I cut her off too. My wife's family was just as messy. Her mother called me crying, saying I needed to forgive her daughter because everyone makes mistakes. Her father told me I was weak for throwing away a marriage instead of fighting for it. That man actually told me that a man's job is to keep his wife satisfied, and if she went elsewhere, that was my fault. I wanted to reach through the phone and strangle him. The divorce. Filing for divorce was both the easiest and hardest thing I ever did. Easy because I knew there was no saving the marriage, but hard because it meant untangling years of shared life, shared finances, and shared dreams. She didn't make it easy. She begged me not to file. When I went ahead and did, she tried to stall the process. She argued about assets, about the house, about everything she could. It wasn't about what she wanted, It was about making me suffer. Her big argument was that since I was the one who filed, I was giving up on the vows, and therefore I shouldn't get to keep the house. Never mind that she broke the vows by sleeping with my brother. In her mind, I was the quitter. Luckily, I had a good lawyer, and the evidence was on my side. I kept the house. She got her car and whatever personal belongings she wanted, but that was it. No alimony, no nothing. When the judge finalized it, I felt a strange mix of grief and relief. Grief because no little boy dreams of growing up, getting married, and ending it in divorce. Relief because I was free of her lies, my brother's fate. As for my brother, I cut him out completely. I blocked his number, refused to see him at family gatherings, and made it clear that as far as I was concerned, he no longer existed. My dad supported me in that decision, but my mom struggled. She tried to reconcile us, tried to invite us both to dinner, but I told her if he was there, I wouldn't be. Eventually, she stopped pushing, but I know it breaks her heart. Last I heard, he and my ex tried to make a relationship work, but it fell apart within 6 months. Shocking, right? Two cheaters who built their bond on betrayal didn't last. Who could have guessed? Picking up the pieces. After the dust settled, I had to face the reality of being single again. The nights were the hardest. Going from sharing a bed to sleeping alone made me feel emptier than I can describe. I'd wake up in the middle of the night expecting her to be there, then remember she was gone, and good riddance. I threw myself into work. I started hitting the gym harder than ever, not just to stay busy, but because I needed an outlet for all the anger and hurt. Slowly, I started to rebuild myself. I also started reading more, not the Bible, ironically, but philosophy, psychology, and books about human behavior. I wanted to understand why people do what they do, why someone who promises to love you forever can turn around and betray you with your own brother. I don't know if I found the answers, but it helped me process. Lessons learned. If there's one thing I want other men to take from my story, it's this. Don't ignore red flags. Trust your gut. When your wife suddenly gets more secretive, when she starts hiding things, when she spends more nights out than at home, don't brush it off. Investigate. Ask questions. Protect yourself. I wish I had. I wish I had taken her secrecy with the priest more seriously. I wish I had paid closer attention to her late nights. Maybe I would have caught it earlier. Maybe I would have saved myself some pain. But at the same time, I don't regret leaving. I don't regret standing up for myself. Because if I had stayed, I would have been a shell of a man, constantly wondering if she was sneaking around again. That's no way to live. Where I am now. It's been over a year since the divorce was finalized. I'm still single, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't trust easily anymore, and I'm not in a rush to hand my heart over to another woman. Do I get lonely sometimes? Absolutely. Do I miss the idea of marriage, of building a life with someone? Yes. But I'd rather be alone than betrayed again. I've started going to therapy, and that's helped a lot. My therapist told me something that stuck with me. You can't control other people's actions, only your reaction to them. That's been my mantra. My ex-wife and brother made their choices. I made mine, and my choice is to keep moving forward. Final thoughts for now. I'll be honest, writing this has been exhausting, but in a good way. It's like I'm finally letting go of some of the poison I've been carrying. To any man reading this or hearing it on your channel, don't let anyone gaslight you into believing betrayal is normal. Don't let anyone convince you that their lies are proof of love. Love doesn't look like secrecy, manipulation, or infidelity. I don't know if I'll ever fully heal from what happened. Betrayal from a wife is bad enough, but betrayal from your own brother? That cuts to the bone. But I'm still standing, and if I can survive it, so can anyone else. Thanks again for giving men a space to share. It means more than I can put into words.